Today on the Wyse Guide, we are making chili con carne, or a Texas-style chili, which is a meat-centered chili without any beans. Everything you need is right in front of me, and it starts with a beautiful chuck roast. This is a beef roast that really becomes tender on a long cooking time. We're gonna have a little bit of bacon to start the flavor. We have crushed tomatoes. I'm using fire roasted because it just adds more flavor. Salt is one of the most important ingredients on almost every recipe. We have bell pepper, onion, some jalapeno for a little bit of spice. I always think bay leaves are a must in chili. Some oil just to make sure we get to brown that meat. Some cumin, chili powder, and oregano, and tomato paste for that depth of flavor caramelization. And then of course some beef stock to round it out and have a perfect chili. Let's get started. It may not sound normal, but we're starting with a little bit of bacon for this chili. And that's because I think bacon, one, it renders out the fat, and we like a little bit of that flavor that we can cook everything else in. But also, bacon then can be added at the end once it's cooked and it crumbled up, and you get that smoky, richer flavor. That's what bacon is. It has a richness and flavor. It has that depth from the smoke, and that's what I want to be able to add, but not overcook it. So we're gonna cook it here in the beginning. I like to add it actually to a cold pan. I think it renders the fat better. So chop it up into small pieces just so we don't have to later. Now I'm gonna focus on the chuck roast while that bacon is rendering and really becoming crispy and brown. So this one is a slightly bigger one than I need, which sometimes when you're going to the store, you can't always just pick your exact size. And it is held together with a string, which can be normal too because they're usually deboned, and so they have, to have to hold them together. So I'm gonna start by just getting the amount I need for this recipe. And I do like to. I am someone that when I can, I like to weigh it. Now notice at this one point here, I have one hand that's contaminated, one that isn't. That just is so I can touch and turn on my scale. And then I will tare it so it goes to 0 with this on. You can just hit the tare button. And I'm gonna set my meat on to check perfect amount there. I eyeballed that and it's almost perfect. So now I'm just gonna cut this up and cube it really into bite-sized pieces. So this chili is going to cook for a long time. It's one that, instead of a ground meat chili, which I have a lot of recipes for, this is one that's really gonna focus on this tender, fall apart, melt in your mouth meat. So it's a little bit more depending where you're from in the country. I'm from the Midwest. This was not our normal chili, but I've had this many times when I'm traveling, and it is delicious. And it's, I think, fun to be able to explore different types of chili because that's the fun of it. I'm finishing up on my last piece here. Now these are irregular, they're about 1/2 to maybe 3/4 of an inch in size for cubes, but remember they fall apart and they become super tender. So that's kind of the best part. It almost becomes a semi-shredded, but still a good texture of beef. So what I'm gonna do now, my still clean hand, is salt them all very well. This is super important whenever you're really doing any meat. Think of this almost like a beef bourguignon when we've made that. It's the same idea that you're just gonna go through and make sure you salt all sides of the meat. This is the beginning of making sure we have flavor on all of the meat. And when we go to brown it, because that's an essential step, we wanna make sure that we have it well salted. That's gonna help retain moisture, it's gonna help bring out more flavor, and it's gonna make sure that this is a well-seasoned dish from beginning to end. Because if you just try to season in the end, it just sits on top and it tastes salty. If you season all the way throughout, you use less salt and it's well seasoned. I'm taking off the bacon. It has rendered beautifully. We have a little bit of oil there in the bottom. Now, this is a good flavor base to start with, that oil, and you can see there's some beautiful fond on the bottom of the pan, which is what I love too. But we definitely need a little bit more oil. Now this is where you watch the heat of your pan. It's been getting hot from the bacon. We don't want to overheat it, but we do want it still at that nice kind of warmth because that's what's now going to brown this meat, which I'm going to do in about 2 batches. So whenever you're browning meat, I love that sound. You want to make sure that your pan is hot, but also you don't want to overcrowd it because then it's just going to steam and it's not actually going to brown well. So I'm gonna make sure there's a little bit of space in between and do this in about 2 batches, like I said, just to make sure it really browns, turning it so it gets brown on both sides. With the last batch of beef browning now on its second side, I can quickly finish all my vegetables, which are some sweet pepper, and you can do any color you like. For some reason, I feel like with chili, it just makes sense because I think the green shows up better. I like the green. Personally, I don't like to eat green pepper raw, but the sweet bell pepper, when it's green in something like a stew, I think is great. And then what I'm doing is just getting my onion and my jalapeno. So I did 2 jalapenos that I did seed. Now, if you're adverse to heat, you can do 1. The thing is, often grocery store ones are not that hot, and they do mellow out because this has a nice long cooking time. And during that time, I really do feel like it mellows all that excess heat. So with all this done, we're gonna go over, remove the rest of the beef, The beef created the most beautiful fond on the bottom of the pan. Don't let that scare you. It's not burned, it is flavor. And now the beef is not fully cooked, so I'm putting it all into a plate. I'm letting it catch the juices from that beef because we want to put everything then back in when this is going to go back in for its long cooking time. But what this does, it seems like a step that, oh, do I need to do it? But that browning process is so much flavor, but then it's also on the beef too. So it helps it have texture, it helps it have flavor, you're building flavor, and now we have all that gorgeous oil from everything we've cooked and the flavor. We're gonna grab our vegetables and we're putting it right into this beautiful oil. I have a couple I need to get here, but this is the best part now, is now we're gonna build the flavor of the actual soup. This is gonna be right before it goes in for its long, beautiful roasting time. I wanna make sure I season these well with some salt, because again, layers of seasoning as we go. And then some chili powder, the blend chili powder that you buy in a jar. It has so much flavor, but we're gonna up it. We're gonna add a little bit more ground cumin, which is already in chili powder, but this is that earthy kind of smokiness on its own, and a little bit of oregano, which, and if you can find Mexican oregano, that's one of my favorites to use in a chili, because I think the flavor works really well. Oregano, dried oregano will too. What I'm gonna do is just let these now saute, and slowly it's gonna work up a little bit of that fond. I'm going to saute and soften the vegetables. This smells so good. I want to impress at how amazing these simple things are when they're cooked together. And those spices really do just play such a pivotal role. We're adding in tomato paste. It's such a pantry staple. And what it's gonna do is actually cook. I'm gonna let it cook out the raw flavor, and it's gonna caramelize onto the bottom of the pan. So it's a whole nother layer of fond that we're gonna do before we throw everything else back in and let this really just simmer away. You can really see and smell the difference now. It has darkened in color and is starting to coat the bottom of the pan in this rich, deep color. That's how we know we're ready to move on. So at this point, we're putting everything in. So all the meat, juices have collected underneath it. Yes, they are the color red, but that is flavor. Put them right in there, because this now is gonna get a long cooking time. We're gonna add a little bit of beef stock. This is gonna kind of play up that flavor, just enhance that beef even more, which is what we want. And then we need some tomato, obviously, and we're gonna do crushed tomatoes, which I like crushed tomatoes with the fire roasted aspect if you can find them. If not, just any crushed tomato is great. What I like about crushed is it has a little bit of texture, maintains some of that tomato kind of, the essence of what makes a tomato tomato. That's what I love. So we're gonna bring this up to a simmer, I'm gonna cover it, and then we're just gonna slowly let it just like bubble, very small little bubbles every so often, a low simmer until it's very tender. With it at a simmer, and I like to see just that low simmer. Bay leaves, yeah, you need bay leaves. They really bring it out. They bring out the flavor. Lid, and now dinner's gonna be in a little bit. The soup has really cooked. You know, I think we should call it a stoop. It's a soup and a stew put together really, because you can see how rich and thick it gets. That's exactly what you want. You can take the cover off if you want it to be a little bit thicker and richer. You can actually add more stock if you would want to, but this is really about the meat in this case. And you see how beautiful that works up? At the end, I add back in the bacon. We did that in the beginning. We used that, of course, bacon fat, which was delicious, but now we're just gonna put it back in for that little bit of flavor. We don't want it overly smoky. That's not the point. It's just enough to flavor. And here we go. Now you can see in front of me are what? Some extra accoutrement, shall we say? Because really you can do whatever you want now. That meat is just kind of tender, melt in your mouth, which is what you want. And garnish it if you want to, you know? If you want a few, I'm kind of an avocado, just not aficionado, just I love them and I will put them on anything. So that's always what I will do. Shredded cheese though, cilantro, whatever you want really. You know, tortilla chips or some type of Frito chip, that's a great thing, corn chip to have with it. But really the point here is everything else. Get some of that meat, get some of that, just a little bit of everything on here. The richness and that depth of flavor you do not get in most chilies, which I love a normal chili, but this has something special. This has something more, something that kind of just pulls at you and says, wait a minute, what is this? And you know it's special, and that's the beautiful part of this. This is something that time and again, I feel like you're gonna say, when I have a little bit more time, I wanna make this chili, maybe on a snowy afternoon or evening on a weekend project. It keeps beautifully in the fridge so you can use it time and time again. That's one of the best parts of this soup. Now you are equipped and hopefully inspired to make this Texas-style chili con carne. It really is something that is special. It's really something that might be different than the normal chili you make, or if you're from the Midwest like me, definitely different than the chili you grew up with, which is the best part. Try something new, enjoy it. As always, the full recipe is in the description of this video, and it's also on my website, wyseguide.com. I hope you will find this as delicious as I do. Enjoy.